Hey, thanks for watching old Goosey Goggles VR, my name's Dan. Today we're going to talk about the Quest 3 announcement, reel off some of its features and go into my thoughts a touch. Next we'll go through all the highlights of the Meta Showcase and see what we're going to be playing on this shiny new device. Let's get into it. So here is all the information we have so far, but bear in mind on September the 27th there will be more news to come at this year's Connect. So first off, the Quest 3 is 40% smaller than the Quest 2. It looks incredibly sleek. It looks to be about the size of the Pico Neo 4, but if the Quest 3 is R2-D2, the Neo 4 looks like that ugly red robot in comparison.
Come on, Red, let's go!
All that size reduction, of course, is due to the included Pancake lenses, much like the Pico Neo 4 and also the Quest 3's older sibling, the Quest Pro. The Quest 2 had, or still has I guess, quite thick Fresnel lenses, much like the PlayStation VR 2. These thinned down lenses have a much wider and forgiving sweet spot. There are days when I put on my Quest 2 and I just cannot get that sweet spot in for some reason. I also find I get a lot of light glare in my peripheral and it always feels sort of ethereal. It's just not as crisp as I'd like, and these thinner lenses really help that. Probably the feature I'm most excited about, second to the sheer power upgrade. So the new Qualcomm Snapdragon chip has double the GPU processing power of the Quest 2, they claim. There's also a boost to the RAM, and the storage for the £499/$ version is 128GB. Apparently there'll be alternate higher storage versions available. Obviously this is all great stuff. Let's hope software devs aren't held back due to dual Quest 2 and Quest 3 releases for too long. Other features that I don't really want to get into too much detail here are the pass-throughs now in colour. The device has an IPD adjustment wheel to align the lenses with your eye's width, and it looks like the included strap will be replaced the moment a lot of us get it into our hands. I'll quickly mention the new controllers you can see in the announcement video here. They're smaller and sleeker without those rings that I've bashed on my desk more than I'd like to admit. These new Quest 3 controllers don't have cameras on them, so they won't self-inside-out track like the Quest Pro controllers. My guess is that the little invisible lights that are on the Quest 2 rings, that communicate with the actual device's cameras, are now around the top portion of the controller, but work in an identical way. Let's hope that this aesthetic bonus doesn't make them worse at tracking. That would be bad. Overall, I'm really impressed. I can't wait to get my hands on it. Let's look at a handful of the over 20 software announcements from the Meta Showcase. First off, let's quickly point out this screenshot. It looks like, much like when we went from Quest 1 to Quest 2, we'll be able to play every experience that we own on this ecosystem. I'm sure there would have been uproar if this wasn't the case, but I had seen the question asked, so I thought I'd clear that up. Let's look at the highlights of the over 20 software announcements. First up on the highlights is Ghostbusters: Rise of the Ghost Lord. This game was announced at last year's showcase, but this time round we get to find a little bit about who the Ghost Lord is. This Ghostbusters story is set on the west coast of the US, not the UK. Can you imagine? Oh, that's Ghostbusters: Rise of the Ghost Lord. Anyway, sorry my Welsh cousins. It looks like a student of the Ghostbusters, Gustav Hookfaber, has gone full mad scientist and turned himself into the Ghost Lord. The only location that they mention that we get to travel to is Alcatraz, but they do also show off a glimpse of like a haunted house. They also show the Ecto-1 in a garage that looks reminiscent of the New York firehouse from the movies. I'm excited for this one, as I love VR co-op games and I love Ghostbusters. The fantastic Asgards Wrath is getting a sequel on the Quest. Unfortunately, there's no remake of the original for Quest, so to play that title you have to play via a PC. The developers have assured us that we don't need to have played that game to enjoy this sequel, but I would recommend it if you have the means to play. It's a great game. In Asgards Wrath 2, you'll be free roaming open environments, realm to realm, to hunt down Loki, the god of mischief, as one of 4 hero characters. They claim that there's 60 hours worth of content here, with a story, side quests, chunky combat, and animal allies to team up with. I've been craving a game with a lot of meat on the bone, and it looks like Asgard's Wrath might be Quest 3's answer. It looks like the 12-year-old Xbox 360 game Bulletstorm is getting the VR port treatment. This game is full of frantic gunfights and rewards kicking and whipping enemies for cool combo attacks. Bulletstorm features a fairly decent length story, and I'm excited to see how the fast gunplay of a Doom-style shooter, be it not quite as fast, will transition to Quest 3 in 2023. Interestingly, the game is also coming to the PlayStation VR 2. However, it's unclear in this trailer whether the graphics here will be this good in the Quest 3. If so, paired with those Pancake lenses, we're in for a real treat. Next up is Racket Club. I'm going to keep this one short as the trailer gives you everything you need to know about this tennis/squash game. Firstly, it's developed by VR heavyweights Resolution Games, who brought us Demio, Blast On, Ultimex, the list goes on. This should be enough to tell you that the game will at the very least be polished and run awesomely. It doesn't look like this game is going to be particularly deep, but I'm a sucker for a VR multiplayer sports game. Can this one top 11 table tennis, or walkabout mini golf as the top in this genre? Only time will tell. Picturesque Venice. Beautiful gondolas ferrying families down the river while singing song. The smell of fresh crab in the nostrils. Well, not so much in this game. You play as a vampire who stalks the night, sinking your teeth into unsuspecting victims in stealth-style gameplay. Visually, it looks a bit like The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, with gameplay a bit like Dishonored or Assassin's Creed. Looks good, and I can't wait to sink my teeth in. Dungeons Eternity is a 4-player cooperative dungeon crawler that reminds me a bit of the old Gauntlet game I had on the original NES. The visuals have a slight Sea of Thieves aesthetic to them, and it looks like there's loads of variation in enemies. It looks like you'll be exploring dark crypts, ruined castles, and deep caverns to solve puzzles, and use swords and sorcery to do battle. Much like the PlayStation showcase only a mere few days ago, Arizona 2 is shown here, but did we get a nice gameplay deep dive? No, we got another pre-rendered CG video. Considering this game launches this year, this worries me. It makes me think, what are they scared to show us? I hope this game lives up to the first one, but I'm keeping my expectations and hype in check, just in case. You do get a dog though. Lastly, we'll end on Stranger Things VR. I'm really excited for this one. I loved Stranger Things throughout, and particularly loved the villain of the last season, Vecna. I think the developers have taken a really interesting risk setting this game fully in the Upside Down, where you play as Vecna. I hope that risk pays off. I watched this trailer and I still can't tell you what the gameplay is like, which excites me and scares me a little. Will this game be a 1.5 hour on-rails story like early VR, or will this game actually be deserving of the title? I guess we'll find out when it releases autumn 2023. So that's it, that's the Quest 3 breakdown and the highlights from the Meta Showcase. I hope that's got you all excited for the future of wireless VR. As always, I'll be here to cover these games in further detail when they release later this year. Consider subscribing to the channel and hit that bell icon if you liked the video. Thanks for watching Goosey Goggles VR, my name's Dan as always, see ya! Had a dream last night, a dream of a frightening and terrifying virtual reality. Isolation, desolation, desperation, loneliness, just one man and his trusty rusty pistol scouring the plains for a new gun and thus a new life, to strap in and settle down while I tell ye the tale.